Hello friends and welcome to Shared and Smiles. I'm Alyssa. So Lorde put out a new album called Melodrama and I have thoughts. So let's just get started right into it. So with this time around, with promoting Melodrama, she's been doing a lot of interviews and things where she talks about having synesthesia. Synesthesia is when, in like the most simplified terms possible, kind of different senses kind of overlap each other. And so with her specifically, what she's been talking about is that when she hears, sounds and hears music and stuff, she sees color, and that definitely has affected her songwriting. And that's something that I think is really cool and super interesting. So throughout this time, I've kind of been thinking about, I wonder what color these different things are to her. And I wonder how that, she does say that it does definitely impact her songwriting, but I really am interested, I guess, into how she gets the sounds that she does, what colors she's seeing, and all of that. That being said, I have no idea. I just thought that was an interesting kind of tidbit to throw in at the beginning. So I'm going to just go ahead and start with the songs one by one now, and you can kind of keep that in your mind, I guess, as to what colors you would maybe associate and wonder, what maybe she's seeing as well. So the first song on the album is called Green Light. It was the lead-off single, so it's the song that I was personally most familiar with going into this. And when I first heard it, I realized right away that it was kind of the familiar sound that we've all come to expect and love from her, but also with a little bit more of an upbeat feel in the instrumentation of it all, which made me super excited for the album. And yeah, so it was a great start, to lead off, to get me excited in the beginning, and also to start out with something familiar that I was, pumped up for the rest of it. Song number 2 on the album is called Sober. One of the lines that kind of keeps coming up is, "But what will we do when we're sober?" It's kind of almost whispered in the background. So the song's kind of about the weekend party scene, and like I said, that line keeps coming up almost in the background. So she's talking about going out, partying, having fun or whatever, but what's going to happen when this aspect isn't here anymore? The intro to this song was definitely interesting. Unfortunately, I kind of personally had a hard time understanding what was being said, but the spoken part of that and percussion were kind of the persistent driving force throughout the rest of this song. Within the instrumentation, it was kind of the constant that we heard throughout. Song number 3 is called Homemade Dynamite. It starts with her singing and then the instrumentation kind of kicks in. The pre-chorus is this really cool kind of rhythmic wordy section that I really liked. And I kind of liked how this song kind of transitioned. Everything went together very nicely, but it kind of played around with different tempos and stylings of music, but it fit together really nicely. And for a song that's called Homemade Dynamite, it wasn't necessarily as bombastic and big as I would expect from a title like that, but it still really worked, and I liked that song a lot. Song number 4 is called The Louvre. It starts with more of a low guitar, bassy kind of sound accompaniment, and then it kind of builds up later. And I really liked this song. There's this part that's, she says, broadcast the boom, 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 and make them all dance to it. And something really cool kind of happens with the accompaniment at this point. I'm sure maybe, these are upon first listen album reviews, so I only listened to it once so that you can get my honest first reactions. So it becomes kind of warbly, and I'm not really sure 100% how to explain it, but I'm sure upon further listens maybe I could find the words better. But I loved it. I loved the way it kind of broke down there. It was great, and this song kind of stood out to me because of it. Song number 5 is called Liability. This is the other song that I heard before listening to the album. She had performed it on, I think, SNL and a couple other things in concert and whatnot beforehand that were broadcasted. And it's a beautiful piano ballad, which is kind of a new sound from her. I loved her last album, but she didn't really do anything like this that was so kind of pulled back and more of a stripped, vulnerable feel to it. But I think that this was a great change, and it was very well executed, and I loved it. It came across as kind of a more personal feel, and it was a great song, and I loved it. Song number 6 is called Hard Feelings / Loveless. This song is the longest on here at a little over 6 minutes, and that's because it's kind of 2 songs in one. It's not just one song. So Hard Feelings is the first part of it, and it fits the sound of the album very well. At about 2.5 minutes, the instrumentation goes intentionally wonky, with sounds that are almost hard to listen to. Not exactly nails on a chalkboard, but kind of that same kind of strange, you know, feel to it that you're just kind of like, okay. But it's a great compliment to the message of the song, and it works really well with it, and I love that she did that. And the second part of this song is called Loveless, and it starts with talking and a beat, and then the other thing that stuck out to me about Loveless was that she kind of sang more in her higher range and stayed in that part of her vocal range, which was interesting. It was a good song, but that's kind of what stuck out to me about it. Song number 2 is called Sober 2, it's song number 7, and it's called Sober 2, and then in parentheses Melodrama, which is the name of the album, so you would expect it to kind of be a staple that kind of tells us a little bit about the whole album, a good representation of the whole album in this song itself. And it's kind of a slower approach to the ideas that we heard in Sober, which was song number 2, I believe, so I'm not 100% off. But yeah, and it starts with these strings, which is different, something we haven't heard throughout, and that kind of drop out, and then it's her vocals and piano, and then the strings kind of come back, which this dramatic instrumentation is really good painting throughout with that of the words that she's singing, of the idea of melodrama. It just is very well reflected in that. So I thought that was really cool. Song number 8 was called Rider in the Dark, and this is another piano ballad. And yes, she has blessed us with more than one on this album, which I'm super excited about, because again, even though this isn't the sound we got before, it isn't the sound that maybe we would have expected, I think she does a great job with it. And I actually almost like this song more than Liability, although I love Liability too. And it shows off more of her range, I think, vocally and emotionally than a lot of the stuff that we've seen that's come before. I think she's always been an emotional, honest person throughout her music, but I think there's just something about this instrumentation, something about kind of slowing it down a bit and making it focused so much on her and just being her and the piano that showcases it more than some of the other stuff that we've been able to see it through before. Song number 9 is called Supercut, and it's kind of about looking back at all the moments with someone. And it has more of an upbeat 80s inspired instrumentation, and it's very kind of reminiscent of Greenlight and the sound that she was going for with that one. Song number 10 is called Liability Reprise. Now, I was thinking in a reprise in terms of like a musical is when a character sings a little bit of a song that we've already heard before, but with some kind of new insight. They've learned something along the way. Whether they're the one who sang it before or someone else did, we were first introduced to it in one way, and now it's come back because it's important to come back to the idea and thought of it, but also because there's almost something new added to it. And that's exactly what this song does. It revisits the idea of liability, but with different instrumentation and kind of a new insight. The last song on the album is song number 11, Perfect Places, and it's kind of a more upbeat sound to end on. The lyrics are not so much, which is kind of in true Lorde form. It's not necessarily the most upbeat, like woohoo, like positive message, but it's a good song, and it kind of ends with voice and piano, which I thought was very reflective of kind of melodrama and the message of the album throughout. It was very coherent from beginning to end. So overall, I give this album 4.5 out of 5 smiles. Lorde has been through a lot since her last album. It's been a while since we've heard from her. She went through a breakup, which clearly influenced the subject matter of this. She definitely used that in her work to kind of deal with the emotions that come from that. And she kept the sound that we know and love, but experimented with more of it and branched out. And as a whole, it kind of matured in a direction that made perfect sense and was exactly what she should be doing with her music. This album, I feel, showed off more of her range, both musically and vocally, And so we're seeing her talent really grow and expand. And like I said, this is a more mature sound than we've heard before, and she came out very mature sounding, but this is already more mature, going in the right direction. I can't wait to hear more of what she has to put out. I have to answer the phone. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you all, and as always, don't forget to share them smiles. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye now, friends.